And we're live. Welcome to a short video clip that describes how to calibrate a pH meter that you'll be using in the field. Today I have with me a YSI Pro Plus Professional Series data sonde that stores data that is collected from a series of probes that are contained in the sonde itself. This particular model has on it 4 different probes that we use concurrently to collect data. We have a conductivity and temperature probe. We also have a dissolved oxygen sensor. And then today, in this video, we're discussing the pH meter. All probes on data sondes must be calibrated frequently in order for them to give accurate and reliable measurements. All probes have similar ways in which they're calibrated, in that you have reference solutions or standards that you use. In this case, we have 3 standards: a pH 4 standard, a pH 7 standard, and a pH 10 standard, all 3 of which we will use as a reference to take what the instrument is reading and then translate it into a measurement that it should read. So let's show you how this works on the Pro Plus series. First, we turn the Pro Plus on, and it takes a few minutes to boot up and load data off of the probes. Now, it comes up with a series of readings which you cannot see from your vantage point. Right now, the instrument says that it's reading a pH of 6.7. However, it is not immersed. I can immerse this probe in water, and we can get a generalized reading of what the pH is of this tap water. We let it sit for a few seconds and acclimate, and it's reading about a pH of about 6.8, which is a little low for what water should read in this region. And that's an indication that this pH probe has drifted from what it should be reading against a standard. Now, there are various reasons why that could be the case. Primarily, it has not been used in a couple of months and has been stored in the cabinet. And so pH probes over time will drift, and so they need to be calibrated. Now, luckily, calibrating a pH probe is pretty simple on these new systems. On this Pro Plus, you literally hit calibrate, you scroll down to where it says pH, you hit the pH, and it starts giving you readings. Now, what it does is it gives you a reading, and then it gives you an expected reading. So we have on here what the instrument actually is reading, and then it tells you what it thinks it's expected to read. So let's start with pH 4 solution. These pH solutions are colored as standard so that you can't confuse them. pH 4 always has a pink or reddish color. Now, to make this work properly, what we need to do is briefly rinse the pH probe and the instrument 3 times. And that rinsing 3 times ensures that whatever fluid was in there before is no longer in there, and that you're replacing it with the standard solution. So we rinse twice, and we're rinsing a 3rd time. Now, once it's rinsed, we fill the chamber with the standard solution, always ensuring that the amount of fluid goes up over top of the probe itself. On the instrument, it's already said it's expecting a value of 4. It's already detected this solution, it knows that there are standard solutions and that the closest standard solution to this is 4. And so that's reading. However, the instrument is reading a pH of 4.17. In other words, there's a difference between the actual reading of the instrument and the expected reading of the standard. So we make that correction. And to make that correction, the first thing you do is you look, make sure that the calibration value is right, and you hit accept calibration, and it's done. So now it says at the bottom, ready for point 2. So we have completed the pH 4 standard calibration. So now we can move to a second point, because what you're doing is you're creating a regression line. You're creating a line with multiple points by which you can correct all values that you might have. One calibration point does not do that. You need at least 2 and preferably 3 points in order to make your calibration curve. So now we're rinsing 3 times with the pH 7 solution standard. And in this case, the pH 7 standard solution is a greenish color by convention. So that's the second time. We're rinsing our third time. And now we fill the chamber with our pH solution. And notice again, the color of this pH solution is green. And it has already come up with an accepted value of 7.01. The reason it's different than 7 is because temperature affects these standards, and the temperature at which this room is at and which these solutions are at means that this pH standard will be a 7.01, which the instrument is reading. However, the instrument says that its actual reading is 7.19, which is different from the standard. So as before, we look and make sure that it's all set properly, and then we hit enter. It accepts that new calibration point, and it says it's ready for point number 3. And we're doing a 3-point calibration for this pH instrument. And so our last point that we're going to use is a pH 10 solution. By convention, these pH 10 solutions are a bluish color. Mm-hmm. And these colors make it very easy for you to not confuse them in the field. So our first rinse, our second rinse, and our third rinse. Now we take the standard solution, we fill the chamber, again over top of the probe itself so that we get an accurate reading. We look at the instrument. It's saying that this pH 10 solution at this temperature should have a pH of 10.04. Our pH meter is reading an actual reading of 10.13. So again, it's different. So we hit enter to accept this calibration, to turn that into a pH of 10.04. It says it's ready for point number 4. However, in this case, we're only doing 3 points. So we're complete with the calibration, and at the bottom of the window, it will say press calibrate to finish or press escape to abort. We finished all 3 points sufficiently, so we're going to hit calibrate to finish. It's calibrating that channel. It's using the values that we selected to transfer the readings into actual readings on the instrument, and it's going to store those on the instrument for future readings. Okay, so now the instrument says that the pH of this solution is 10.02. That's close. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pour this out, and we're going to repeat our initial test in that we're going to put some tap water in here, and we're going to see what the pH of this tap water is. And as expected, remember before we did the calibration, it read a pH of the tap water of about 6.8 or so. Now on this instrument, the pH is reading 7.96, which is much closer to what you would expect tap water to be in this part of Indiana. So now the calibration is saved, it is stored on the instrument. We have to calibrate this each time we go into the field to ensure that the data that we're reading at our site is accurate to the standards that we are using. This concludes this information video on how to calibrate a pH meter. Thank you.